was the so-called math that they were teaching was called Common Core math. And so it
What
was
does that mean?
Common Core math was something that President Obama passed, and what it was supposed to be was a set of standards that each state could meet, so that if a student moves to another state, then at least the standards are consistent with each other. That was the big idea. So there were many, I believe Bill Gates was in charge of, I believe it was Bill Gates, and a few other people were in charge of developing these standards. And they had a vision of what math should be, but the problem is that, well, they instituted obviously certain kinds of state tests, and in these state tests, I'm just trying to think of the best way to explain it. The idea was they want students to understand math in a more abstract way, in a more general way. But really what they did was just take out the fundamental math skills, where they're not necessarily learning to memorize, adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. They're going to teach all these different strategies. But what happened was, like, every time they taught a new strategy, just when I thought he understood it, then he has to start over. So they spend all this time, the teachers were spending all this time teaching to the test and not teaching fundamental skills. And there was Common Core started to be more enforced, like maybe around 2013. I think it passed 2010. And
but why? What was the problem before?
Governments are always trying to improve education in some way. And I'm sure that President Obama wanted to make his mark, and no one really realized how damaging it would be. When parents started to see the curriculum, they were hitting the school board meetings. Like, before there was CRT, there were parents hitting the school board meetings and complaining about this. And so I started to feel desperate, and I started to look around and contact different charter schools and find out what are my options, because I was telling his teacher, why can't you let him do math the vertical way, where he's like, 10 minus 5 equals 5, and she's like, oh, they don't let kids do the vertical way until 5th grade.
What?
And just hearing all these things, and I'm like, oh my God, because at first I thought this is just 1st grade.
Yeah.
This is just this teacher. She's just not a good teacher. And then I realized I cannot keep putting Damien through this for 12 years. This was causing him so much frustration.
Yeah.
It was making him feel extremely frustrated, making him feel stupid, making him feel like he can't do it. He didn't understand. And I would be like, Damien, but didn't they teach you this in class? And you did your homework. Damien, why can't you do it? And sometimes he would just cry. And I just knew that if I kept giving him 12 years of this stuff, he's going to develop an anxiety disorder. I was like, I'm not doing this to my kid, And so I just searched charter schools. They all go by Common Core, one way or the other. And obviously we can't afford private school. So the decision I decided to make was I bought a whole set of textbooks, math textbooks. Because
from before
yes,
2000
in 1997, the state passed these California standards, and what happened was when they looked at the students' test performances, you could see that they were going up after the 1997 standards were incorporated, and you could also see that the gaps between, like, performance gaps for minority groups was also starting to close. 8th grade enrollment of algebra, which is an important benchmark, was also improving. But then when you see that once it gets to around 2010, 2013, when Common Core got implemented, then that increase kind of slowed down a little bit. And so that's one way.